guys, welcome back to The Subtle Witch. So today, one of the topics that I wanted to go over is how I practice witchcraft. Because I know that's a thing where a lot of people don't know exactly what witches do, really. I mean, it's basically like there are so many different paths and different rituals and different types of witches, which I know I touched on in the previous video. So I just wanted to go over what I personally actually do. The way that I even initially got into this, on this path, is that about 10 or 11 years ago, I read The Secret, which I know that's like how everybody gets into the law of attraction stuff. So this was back in 2007, 2008-ish. I got The Secret, the book. I think the movie was out before the book, but I didn't see the movie until years later. So I read the book, thought it was cool, started implementing some manifesting techniques, different law of attraction things, and I also got my first tarot deck back in 2008. So I started dabbling with that stuff, and then it kind of fizzled out, just life in general. I never lost interest in it, it just sort of, I don't know, I didn't make time for it, I guess. And so it kind of went on the back burner. I was still very into spiritual things. I'm not religious at all, which I also mentioned before. Even as a witch, you don't need to be any sort of specific religion. You don't need to be Wiccan. I know that's a common misconception. So I am not Wiccan. I am not really any type of religion. I would say I'm spiritual, but not religious. So anyway, started with that stuff in 2007, 2008, kind of went on the back burner. And then recently, last year, I'd say is when I got a lot more hardcore into it. And just the law of attraction stuff, not even necessarily witchcraft. It was more manifesting, vision boards. I followed a bunch of people on different social medias, all about how to manifest stuff and different like rituals and techniques and different placing intention on things basically. And I would see it work. And I'm so skeptical about stuff. So I'm not even one to just be gullible or be oh, I think it's working. We'll see, let's test it out. I am very skeptical about things. And one of the things that sold me on the law of attraction actually being real as of recently, last year, was I was reading, what book was it? I started reading the Magick. I did that it's a 28-day practice. Did that. That was cool. And then I started reading E Squared, which is I think an older book, but I borrowed it from a friend actually. And one of the things in there was to imagine seeing something and visualize it and picture seeing it, and then you will see that. And it's kind of the same as if you're car shopping and you're looking at a specific type of car that you've never even really seen on the road before, and once you start researching it and looking into it, you suddenly see that car in that specific color everywhere, a million of them. And so that was one of the practices in that book was picture, I think it said a blue or a tan or beige car or something. And I was well, that's super common. What are, I feel you can find a tan or beige car without even trying. So in my head, I was I'm going to go for a green car because I feel green isn't very common, at least around here. No lie, I saw 13 green cars that day, on my way to work. So I was okay, that could still be a fluke that I happened to see all the green cars. So one of the other things in it is a feather. And so I was okay, I'll picture a white feather. Mind you, this is in the dead of winter in the city. It's not I'm on some farm somewhere where there would likely be feathers. And I don't really own anything with feathers in it, like a down comforter or anything. So I was okay, I'll see a white feather. 2 days went by, I didn't see it. I was okay, whatever. And then I went into a store, it was within the week. I don't remember exactly how many days. And I was getting food products. It wasn't a grocery store, but it was just one of those little hole-in-the-wall places. So I went there, and I went down to the bottom shelf to pick something up, and there was a white feather inside of a store next to my foot. And I was all right, that's something. And then to make it even more, to test it even further, I was okay, how about a purple feather? Because there's no, naturally purple birds around here anyway. I'm sure there are in other, tropical places or whatever. So, looking for a purple feather, didn't see it again for, a week. And then I was scrolling Instagram one day, and literally there was a picture of just a purple feather. I can actually pull it up right now, and it wasn't even on like a, like a witchy or new age sort of metaphysical type account or whatever. It was totally random, and I know I have that photo still. Let me find it. Okay, here it is. You can see it's literally just a picture of a purple feather on a white background. Now, granted, you might, and I thought this too, I was like, well, I was seeing it in real life. I didn't think like a picture of it would count, but like it does. And literally, it's not like I picked that out of like an actual picture. Like that is clearly just a purple feather. And that's exactly what I was picturing. I was like, that's fucking weird. So anyway, that basically convinced me, and I was like, okay, that like this shit is real. So I picked up my interest in tarot again. I tried looking for that deck. I used to live in LA, now I live on the East Coast, and I know that I brought it back with me in my cross-country move. To this day, I still cannot find it. It's somewhere in my house. It has to be. Can't find it at all. So I have 2 new tarot decks that I use. This one is the Shadowscapes Tarot. As you can see, it's got really pretty artwork on it. I mean, I'll just show you some of them. Like this is Queen of Swords. Sorry if it's kind of glary. Then we have, I'm just like quickly going through, 10 of Pentacles. It's more like, it's very feminine and painterly. I'm not a huge fan of the Raider White deck, which is what most people, it's like the standard, but it's very, in my opinion, kind of like cartoony looking. You can see how these are, sorry, it's very glary. These are much more like artistic, I think. So this is the deck that I use most often, and it's called the Shadowscapes Tarot. And then also, just last week actually, I got myself another deck, and this one is the Everyday Tarot mini deck, and you can see, here I'll show you the size difference. So this is the Biddy Tarot one. You can see these are slightly bigger. So this one's considered the mini deck, and it's purple and gold. You can see different cards. I love this one, the star. So I use both of those. I've been using this one more lately just because I got it last week, and I feel like it's easier for me to interpret just because there's more symbolism, I feel like, in these. Even though they look more basic, the photos, it's easier to just almost like memorize the cards better, whereas these ones, they're really pretty, but they don't necessarily like blatantly tell you what they are. Like, I feel like it's better to learn off of a more basic deck like these ones that are very obvious, like what the intent is behind each card, versus the more mystical ones. But I totally love this deck. It's so pretty. So anyway, that's one of the things that I incorporate into my witchy practices is tarot, Shadowscapes, and Biddy Everyday Mini deck. And then I also use pendulums. I'll show you some. I have 2. One is this clear quartz one, and one is this labradorite. I don't know, I'm probably saying that wrong. But it's like a grayish blue, like, you can see how it has some flashes in there of blue. Very pretty stone. So I have these 2. I got this one first. This one's a lot simpler looking, and the chain's actually longer on this one, which bothers me a little bit, just because I'm used to using this one. But pendulums are really good for just practicing using your intuition, and it also, for yes-no questions, is generally what I use it for. You can get more complicated with these, and there's different like charts and stuff you can use, but I haven't used those. I generally just use them as yes or no things. I also love crystals. I have a bunch of them. Usually, most of them are like the smaller little tumbled stones. They're like all over my house right now, so I'm not going to grab any. But I have a couple bigger ones. I have bigger rose quartz. Sorry, I'm like looking over here. I have a shelf that has rose quartz, amethyst, clear quartz, selenite. I have a bunch of candles. I have some little figurines made of crystal. I have a little like altar setup on my bureau that has more crystals, just generally more witchy things, and like a bowl of dried flowers and herbs and some more crystals. I have a shit ton of crystals, basically. Also, I do candle magic. That's one of the things I was drawn to, which is basically using color magic, which is like different colors correspond to different intentions. So you can do different spells with candles. So I do that a lot. And spells, I know there's like I don't know, spells sound super like mystical and weird and witchy, if you will, but they're not anything. It's basically like if you're into law of attraction and manifesting and like setting intentions for things, that's literally what a spell is. It's just, you can add different rituals to it, and the rituals don't necessarily enhance the power of the spell. It's more like everything is within you. Like the power is within you, and I know that that's such a cliche thing, but you can like feel it. Like when you're in the zone, you just like feel powerful, and that's what I love about witchcraft, is that you can like feel the power that you have. So I do use candles and crystals and color magic and herbs and flowers and the pendulum. Oh, I do little jar spells. I can show you one of these. I just did this the other day. It's like this tiny little jar, and you can see there's some flowers in there, some herbs, there's a piece of cinnamon bark. You can see that it's sealed with melted green wax from the green candle that I was using. There's a little bit of honey in there, some rosemary. There's a bunch of stuff in there. And this was like for a specific intention. And these little bottles, you can buy like a pack of them. Like I think I got like a 20 pack for like $4 or something off Amazon. I get like all of my witchy supplies off Amazon most of the time. There's not a whole lot of like crystals or metaphysical shops around here. There's like 2 within maybe like a 40-minute drive. The other thing, every witch should have a grimoire or book of shadows or whatever you want to call it. It's basically a witchy journal. This is the one I use, and I actually picked up this notebook before I even like acknowledged the fact that I'm actually a witch. And I feel like the more that I learn about it and the more deeper I get into it, I'm like, yeah, this is what I've been doing my whole life. I just never put a label on it. So anyway, I was in Barnes & Noble and I saw this notebook and was like, oh my god, I need to buy this for like witchy things. And that's what I've been using it for. So this is what you would consider like a grimoire or a book of shadows. I'll show you some of my pages. Grimoires are generally very personal to the witch. It's where you keep, it's basically like a journal of everything that you learn, every spell that you do, outcomes, different like rituals, different meanings for things. So when I started this, you can see I had a pretty hefty, these are crystals that I actually own. I took photos of my actual crystals just because once you start collecting a bunch of them, a lot of them look very similar, and it's, unless you have specific pictures, or unless I have specific pictures, it's kind of hard to distinguish like say all of the black ones. There are a lot of black stones that look the same, but they're different. So I started this, I would just put a photo of it, I'd tape it in here, put what it's called, different properties and stuff of it. I have a couple pages of crystal stuff, and then I have some new moon and full moon rituals in here. I have color meanings. Different colors mean different things. This is all like correspondences. I have some kitchen witchery tips, different herbs and spices and things that correspond to different things that you could use in spells or in cooking or whatever. I have some stuff on chakras in here. I'm also a Reiki master. I certified back in January, I think, January or February. So I also put in different Reiki positions for yourself and doing it on other people. And the symbols, little cheat sheet in here. I have some notes on tarot stuff. More tarot. Tarot's a couple, it's a few pages in here. And then I have some spells and stuff, which I'm sure I'll share at a certain point, but that's like the gist of it. You just keep all your magical workings in here. And a lot of times, since this is like my master book of stuff, as I'm working out spells and taking notes on things, I do it in a separate notebook, and then once I have it like polished and know what I want to transfer and what I want to leave out, then I'll put the final version in here. So that is that. So one of the other things that I wanted to go over is I started to list out things that I actually use. Tarot cards, crystals, herbs, and flowers. I like especially picking my own, but sometimes if they're a unique flower or something that I want or need, I'll go to a specific shop to grab that. just in general, like, I love being outside. Being a part of nature is a huge part of being a witch. I practice gratitude and meditation. I like to go outside a lot and be outdoors. I love camping. I cast spells. I do a lot of crafts. I've recently started making dream catchers. So I'm making those currently for my kids' rooms. I make my own candles, specifically intention candles. So I have like a new moon candle that I make, a specific blend for a full moon candle, which is more like releasing and getting rid of all negative energies to make room for like better, good energies. And I have a new moon blend candle that I use for manifesting specifically. And there's different like scents and herbs and crystals and stuff that I incorporate into that candle when I make it. I read a lot about witches and crystals and manifestation and herbs and plants, basically anything I can get my hands on. I also obviously go down the rabbit hole that is Google and Pinterest. There's just so many resources out there now, so it's really easy. But I just wanted to do this video just to give like a quick gist of how I personally incorporate magic and just practice witchcraft in general, because I know a lot of people hear the word but don't actually know like what does that like physically entail, like what do you actually do, like what is witchcraft to you, and like what do you actually practice. So I just wanted to make this video to throw that out there. If you have any questions, please comment below. Feel free to like this video, give it the little thumbs up, subscribe to this channel. I'll be trying to do these weekly, most likely posting on Fridays, so keep an eye out, and thanks for joining me. I hope that was useful. See you next time. This is the Subtle Witch.